Mother, Amy, do you know whose house this is? Oh, what are you talking about? It's Danny's, of course. That's why I'm the most important here. That's right. It's my brother's house. Why are you making a fuss? My name is Susan. I'm a 55-year-old housewife working part-time. I married my classmate Danny, and it has been 30 years. We thought we could finally enjoy our time together after raising 2 children to adulthood. However, our time alone was very brief. After my father-in-law passed away, my mother-in-law moved into our house. Danny, I'm lonely without Dad here. Let's live together. My mother-in-law, Helen, is 78 years old. She might be at an age where loneliness is typical, but it doesn't apply to her. Her back and waist are straight, she has no chronic illnesses or history of hospital visits, and her voice and demeanor are large. She is exactly the type that thrives on animosity. I could do everything myself, but I wish you had decided to move in when you were a bit weaker or had health issues. Sorry, Susan. Should I send her back to live alone for a bit longer? Although my husband tried to decline the proposal to live together that his mother started, she did not back down, so he discussed it with me as a temporary measure. My husband always makes sure to consider my feelings on important matters. He's a kind man. It feels wrong to force my kind husband to send his own mother away. Your mother won't back down when she started, right? I'll try considering living together as a trial. But I think she will definitely harass you, Susan. She was terrible even when we introduced you during our engagement. You remembered that incident? Can we end the living arrangement if she angers me even once? Susan, you are strong. My life with you is what matters most. If you think it's too much, we'll stop living together with her. Thus, I accepted living together with my mother-in-law. Thank you, Danny. I think we'll have a good time from now on. Mom, don't bother Susan or say weird things. What? A daughter-in-law should respect her mother-in-law, right? I'm worried Susan might be rude to me. Mother, welcome. I look forward to living with you from today. Oh, you're acting so important. You talk like you own this house. Mom, it's okay, Danny. It's a new environment. She must be nervous. Susan, Mother, this is your room. If you need anything, please let me know. Well, it's not bad. Since it's Danny's house, that's only natural. Yes, Danny cleaned up the room for you. So, from today, this is my room, and that daughter-in-law better not enter without permission. Mom, what are you saying? Right? It's not nice to have someone enter your room without permission. Should I ask before cleaning your room? I'm worried about the standard of your cleaning. I'll do it myself, so just leave me alone. Understood. Then, you will do the cleaning of your room by yourself. I ignored my mother-in-law's sarcastic remarks like this. That night, after we went to the bedroom, my husband apologized to me. Susan, I'm really sorry. I think Mom will be like this every day from now on. Well, the fact that your mother is still so energetic must be a good thing. But it's typical mother-in-law harassment. Even today, saying things like that daughter-in-law. Oh, Danny, do you think I'm a woman who would get upset over a little mother-in-law harassment? She's not a stranger, but a mother-in-law. I feel so sorry for you, Susan. I'm happy you feel that way. It would be hard for you to be caught between me and your mother, so I'll handle it. Thank you. You can decide whether to continue living together with her or not. It's hard to believe such a kind and considerate person was raised by that mother-in-law. Maybe he inherited his father's blood, who was a quiet man of common sense and propriety. With that thought, I prepared for the upcoming mother-in-law and daughter-in-law battle and went to sleep. Susan, this soup is too bland to drink. Sorry. Recently, the results of our health checkups have been concerning, so both Danny and I have been trying to reduce our salt intake. Oh, not being able to maintain your husband's health doesn't seem fitting for a wife, does it? No, both of us are healthy. But I think if either of us ever develops kidney failure or diabetes, we would struggle for life, so it's about prevention. This soup is so thin, it doesn't even feel like I've drunk anything. I'll make some myself. I love Susan's soup because it has a rich flavor from the stock. Danny, humph. Anyway, I can't eat such bland food. Then, Mother, please make something yourself. Both Danny and I are going to work now. Susan, you're on the early shift today, right? Let's go together. The breakfast time mother-in-law and daughter-in-law battle, with my husband's assistance, was a sweeping victory. Wait a minute, Susan. How long do you intend to keep working? I plan to do so as long as I feel like it. Why do you ask? A wife's duty is to support her husband as a full-time homemaker. Because you work, people think Danny's salary is low or he lacks ability. Everyone around here works. Because I work part-time, we can afford Danny's hobbies. And I can even give you an allowance, Mother. What? How dare you, being just a daughter-in-law? If you don't need the allowance from me, Mother, maybe I should quit my job. Grumble. Even without my husband present, I won another battle over my work situation with my mother-in-law. Thus, I continued to extend my winning streak in the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law battles. Normally, one would expect the mother-in-law to give up and raise the white flag or decide to leave, but there was no such indication from mine. She seems to thrive on conflict, and being critical of everything I do seems to be her way of life. The results of our battles don't seem to matter to her. However, my competitive mother-in-law not only challenged me but also made friends with the neighbors, and perhaps even the local ladies felt overwhelmed by her. They prepared a welcome wagon for me. The neighbor who is closest to me came over with a wry smile, holding some items, and said, "That mother-in-law of yours seems tough." I think she understood my feelings. Indeed, it's a troubling situation, but as long as she is healthy and doesn't need care, I thought it was manageable. However, that was until she took a certain action. About 2 months after we started living together, a huge amount of goods was delivered to our home. A 8,000-pound truck parked in front of our house and began unloading item after item. Excuse me, what are all these packages? There are so many. It seems there is no mistake. The delivery is for this address. The sender is Amy. Huh? Amy is my husband's sister, my sister-in-law. Oh, has it already arrived? From inside the house, my mother-in-law emerged with a broad smile. I had a bad feeling and questioned my mother-in-law. Mother, these packages seem to be from Amy. Do you know anything about them? I suggested to Amy and the others that they live here with us, and they were delighted. They sent the packages right away. What? Danny, does my husband know about this? Well, Danny would be happy to live with Amy. A daughter-in-law like you shouldn't interfere. A useless daughter-in-law should just leave. Who is she saying that to? I exploded in quiet anger. I informed my husband about the situation over the phone. He seemed to be speechless with surprise. Susan, it's okay to dissolve our living arrangement. Handle Mother and Amy as you see fit. I'm on your side, Susan. Having confirmed my husband's intentions, I shouted at the courier. I apologize, but I refuse to accept these packages. Please send them back. The courier stopped moving at my command. I have my husband's approval. I refuse to accept them. What? A daughter-in-law? Danny wouldn't allow such an outrage. Isn't the outrage on your part, Mother? Danny didn't know about this, did he? I'm Danny's mother. I'm the most important here. A daughter-in-law like you shouldn't interfere. Somehow, I managed to convince the courier to return the packages, and I continued to glare at my mother-in-law. That evening, my husband left work early in a rush to come home. Oh, Danny, do you know what Susan did? She sent Amy's packages back. Why would you do something like that on your own, Mom? Why did you think to invite Amy to this house? Well, Amy and the others are living in a rental property. It's nicer and more spacious here. And apparently, I'm useless and should leave. What? Mom, did you say that to Susan? Yes. Susan doesn't respect her mother-in-law, and she decides important things on her own. Mom. At that moment, there was a loud knock on the front door. It was a very impolite visitor who didn't use the intercom. That rude visitor was my sister-in-law, Amy. As soon as I opened the door, she stormed into the house and started yelling loudly. What is this? Mom said we could live together at this house, so I sent the packages and you sent them back. Oh, Amy, I'm sorry. This was Susan's doing. She sent them back on her own. My mother-in-law spoke as if she were the victim. What's going on, Susan? Why did you send the packages back? As a daughter-in-law, you shouldn't defy my mom, just obey her quietly. My sister-in-law shouted as if she was about to grab me by the collar. I doubted whether my husband was really his mother's son, but it was clear that mother and daughter were indeed related. Their shamelessness was strikingly similar. And, as a daughter-in-law, Amy, did you obey your own mother-in-law? Amy often clashed with her mother-in-law because of her personality, frequently running back to her parents' home to complain. That's a different matter. Hand over the house quickly. Danny, did you hear that? Susan made a sarcastic remark to Amy. What a terrible woman she is. In response to my counter-argument, my sister-in-law's face turned red with anger, and my mother-in-law dramatically feigned surprise. At this, my husband spoke up in exasperation. The fact that Amy argues with her mother-in-law is true. It's not sarcasm or anything else. Brother, why are you taking this woman's side? It's natural for me to support Susan, right? Amy, you would complain a lot if your own husband supported your mother-in-law or her family over you. Well, it seems I have no choice but to support this woman because she's threatening me. Danny, rest assured. Let's kick this woman out and live happily with mom here. How convenient their interpretation can be, this mother and daughter. It was so absurd that I completely relaxed my shoulders. I don't know what you interpreted to think you could live here, Amy, but please go home. Susan and I didn't agree to any living arrangement with you. What were you thinking? Go home. Even my usually composed husband seemed at a loss for words. Go home? How can you say such a terrible thing? No, I'm going to live in this beautiful house. Mom, kick out the nuisance. I'll say it again, Amy, please go home. At this point, even I was beginning to get angry. Mother, Amy, do you know whose house this is? I sighed deeply and questioned my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Oh, what are you talking about? It's Danny's house, of course. That's why I'm the most important, isn't it? That's right. It's my brother's house. Why are you fussing about it? I should have explained when we built the house, but this house belongs to Susan. Upon my husband's casual remark, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were taken aback. What are you saying? That a daughter-in-law could be the owner of the house? That's ridiculous. This woman has deceived you, brother. Take back the house. At this point, it seemed they wouldn't listen to anything I'd say. My husband must have thought the same and took over the explanation. Susan is skilled in investments, and she built this house with her profits. Yes, I had been making profits through investments. I came from a wealthy family and had been studying money management from a young age. After discussing it with my husband, we decided to use the steadily accumulated profits to fund the building of our house. Do you understand now? I am the owner of this house. I am the head of the household on the family register. As we spoke back and forth like a comedy duo, my mother-in-law glared at us. Even if you are the homeowner, Susan, normally a wife follows her husband. You really are a shameless woman. I never told Susan to invite Amy. What are you saying, Danny? Make proper use of your wife. My mother-in-law's anger increased with my husband's remarks. Mom, I completely disagree with that way of thinking. Susan is my partner, sharing life with me, not married to be a housemaid or servant. Calmly yet firmly, my husband explained to his mother. Susan has given me many happy moments as a couple and as a father, and she will continue to provide happy times as my spouse. His words, as if he were openly doting on me, moved me deeply. Danny, I feel the same way about you. My mother-in-law clenched her teeth in anger, her face turning red. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law Amy watched us with shining eyes. I knew it. Susan isn't just ordinary. Amazing. We were both surprised by my sister-in-law's sudden change in attitude. If Susan could get a house through investments, then I can do it too. I was even more surprised by her words. Yes, but in my case, I've been making profits through investments since I was young. It seemed my sister-in-law misunderstood, thinking she could quickly profit from investments. This isn't the time for this. I'm going to start investing right away. With that, Her previous aggressive demeanor vanished, and she disappeared in a flash. Novices aiming for big profits in investments often fail. Investing is a matter of personal responsibility. Well, it saved us the trouble of kicking her out. Then, facing the now unsupported mother-in-law, I said, "Mother, it's impossible to continue living together with such unreasonable demands. I told you from the beginning not to bother Susan." At our words, my mother-in-law was at a loss for words. "I've been putting up with this small house. What now? Fine, I'm going to Amy's place." And she followed after my sister-in-law and left. Shall we have her move her own belongings later? Yes, we don't want to hear complaints about things being damaged or broken. We stretched ourselves and decided to prepare dinner in the house now that the storm had passed. What now, Mom? Don't disturb us. We're busy. Amy, I'm going to live here with you too. What? Stop it, Mom. You lied about living together with everyone at my brother's house, and Susan is a much more trustworthy woman than you. Amy, go back. I can't make space for Mom in this rental home. It seems my mother-in-law quickly suggested cohabitation to Amy, but she was immediately rejected. My mother-in-law had no choice but to return to her own home, which had been neglected for nearly 3 months. Perhaps she was too embarrassed to face me, as she hired a handyman to move her belongings out of our house. Surprisingly, a good relationship began to develop between Amy and me. Amy tried to start investing right away, but her husband found out and stopped her. However, as they discussed investments, their conversations as a couple increased and their marital relationship improved. Then, they started asking me for advice on investments. I emphasized that investment outcomes are a personal responsibility and that aiming for large profits often leads to failure, and decided to teach them the basics. Now, when Amy comes to my house, she contacts me in advance and brings a small gift. When she leaves, she cleans up, even if it's something simple, and expresses her gratitude. Perhaps her improved attitude has also influenced her relationship with her mother-in-law, as conflicts between Amy and her seem to have decreased. All these despite the fact that she used to be very arrogant. Amy and her husband are now finding joy in the modest profits from their investments. Building a house might be out of reach, but the profits from their investments will likely provide some peace of mind. Amy was a bit of a whirlwind, but it's reassuring to see her settling down well. As for my mother-in-law, since the relationship between Amy and her husband improved and her conflicts with her mother-in-law decreased, Amy hasn't had to return to her parents' home, and my mother-in-law has been living alone. The house, left unattended for 3 months, had deteriorated and required some repairs. Since she had rebelled and moved out after living with us, she couldn't rely on us anymore. Amy no longer worries about my mother-in-law. She is probably living a lonely life alone today. Susan, I've made some tea. Thank you, Danny. Wow, it smells wonderful. Recently, my husband has been into trying different herbal teas. On weekends, he always brews herbal teas that he knows I'll enjoy. Feeling the warmth of having a husband who cares for me, I felt grateful. Living with my mother-in-law made me realize how important my husband's presence is. For this, I am thankful to my mother-in-law. Business trip? What are you talking about? You're just a home worker. Are you just trying to avoid household chores? No, it's really for work. Don't argue. Just quietly follow your husband's instructions. It's been a year since we got married. As a freelancer, my husband doesn't try to understand me at all. Instead, he treats me like a house helper and verbally abuses me, even though I support our household with living and housing expenses. Does he even realize that? Yet instead of being grateful, he just keeps exploiting me. When he says things like that, I can't stay silent anymore. Threatened with divorce papers several times by my husband, I decided to use him in return. Imagining his perturbed face, I headed to my business trip. I am Anna Norman, 29 years old, working at a publishing company. My husband's name is Eric, 34 years old, 5 years my senior. We met 3 years ago during a work visit to a disaster-stricken area. Eric was also doing a job similar to mine, reporting on the situation and writing articles. Since we both worked for publishing companies, we quickly became close, sharing the same interests. We worked together on field research and continued to keep in touch frequently after returning to New York, becoming closer. After 2 years of dating, he proposed to me. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, but confirmed our love for each other in a photo wedding. After getting married, we started living together in the apartment I had been living in before. The move went smoothly as we had spare rooms. With the marriage, I decided to pursue my dream of becoming a freelancer. Leaving the company meant losing benefits, but I wanted to test my own abilities. A week after the wedding, I decided to tell my husband about my decision to go independent. While sharing dinner at home, I started the conversation. Eric, I'm thinking of quitting my current publishing job. What? Why all of a sudden? You said you were going to work harder. Yeah, but I want to try hard as a freelancer. Freelance? You plan to become a report writer on your own? Yes, I want to work freely without being restricted by company constraints. I clearly expressed what was in my heart. I hoped Eric, being in the same industry, would understand. However, what he said next was not encouragement, but a mocking laugh. Haha. Independent, you say? That's impossible. Why? I haven't even tried yet. Why do you assume that? You're a bit of a dreamer. Your articles are appreciated because you're with your current publisher. Well, that might be true, but still. Still what? You think you can achieve the same success independently? Don't say it like that. In the end, you can't do it. You don't have that talent. Now that we're married, I want you to focus more on housework. While making insensitive remarks, my husband continued eating the meal I prepared. Normally, I wouldn't mind his comments about the taste, but now they just made me angry. I tried to persuade him several times afterwards, but he didn't change his opinion. Instead, he kept saying harsh words like, "You can't do it, your efforts are wasted." But I wasn't going to take the challenge lightly. If I gave up my dream then, I'd definitely regret it. Ignoring my husband's criticism, I chose the path of independence. I informed my company that I was quitting and decided to become a freelance report writer. That night, when I quit my job on my own, Eric yelled at me fiercely. "What are you doing? Didn't I tell you many times not to quit your job? Sorry, but I can't give up on this feeling. And what will happen now? Won't we struggle financially because you quit? Can you take responsibility?" Well, fine, it's none of my business. I can only contribute $1,000 a month. You figure out the rest. Understand? Understood. I believed that a partner would surely support my dream. But reality was harder than I thought. Being opposed by the person I wanted support from the most, a rift formed in our marriage. Eric was. Why was he so cold? I just wanted to pursue my dream. Does being married mean we don't have to understand everything about each other? It was hard, but I couldn't give up on my dream. I've decided to act against my husband's opposition, no matter how difficult it was. My resolve only got stronger. Unfortunately, the criticism from my husband, Eric, also escalated. Gradually, it wasn't just my work he criticized, but me as a person. If I got home even a little late, he would become furious and scold me loudly. "Hey, do you know what time it is? It's past 7 p.m. I'm sorry. I got caught in traffic on the way home. Didn't I tell you to be home by 5 p.m.? It's unacceptable to come home from work and find no dinner prepared. I'm really sorry. I'll start preparing right away. I've already ordered takeout and eaten. Remember to pay me back for it later." Thus, overnight assignments were completely prohibited for me. That limited me to only day trips for my assignments. However, sometimes these assignments took longer than expected, or I'd get caught in traffic. It's impossible to predict what might happen until you're on location. Schedules dependent on the weather make returning home by 5 p.m. unrealistic. Still, I couldn't defy my husband. Despite the fact that I worked freely from home while he commuted in crowded trains, he couldn't accept this difference in our situations. Understanding his feelings, I've always tried not to anger him. Meanwhile, I continued to build my career as a report writer. Initially freelancing for various publishers and getting paid per assignment, I soon started receiving direct job offers. Then, I began managing a blog alongside writing articles as requested by my clients. This significantly increased my income. Before I knew it, my monthly earnings had tripled from when I was employed at a company, sometimes exceeding $10,000 a month. I was able to save a substantial amount, even after starting to earn over $10,000 a month. I didn't tell Eric. I thought he would be displeased knowing that his former colleague, now his wife, was earning more as a freelancer. A year into our marriage, Eric's attitude hadn't changed. In fact, it worsened day by day, with hardly any conversation between us. Instead, his criticisms increased. Then, one day, after a long period without a break, I decided to buy clothes at a department store. Upon returning home, Eric stared at the shopping bags and said, "You plan to make luxury purchases even though our income is insufficient? Do you understand our situation? Don't say it like that. I bought these with the money I earned myself. Ha, aren't you using the $1,000 I give you every month? That's not it. It's hard to pay rent with just $1,000, let alone spend it on things like this. What, are you implying that I'm low income? No, nobody is saying that." At that moment, Eric suddenly threw his beer can at me. Fortunately, it didn't hit my body, but it spilled beer on my clothes. "What are you doing?" As I shouted, Eric's face turned red and he raised his voice. "I'm giving you $1,000 every month, even though you quit your job on your own. Aren't you grateful?" "What are you talking about? I'm paying for the rent shortfall, utilities, and groceries from my income. You're probably just dipping into your savings, right? There's no way you, a freelancer, can earn more than me. If you don't believe me, that's fine. But I am not causing you any trouble. Say whatever you want, haha. Just remember, you won't get any allowance if you come crying later." Eric didn't apologize for throwing the can and smirked at me. My patience with him had reached its limit. Several months later, I received a direct assignment from a publishing company I regularly contribute to, which required traveling abroad to write about natural disasters. It was obviously impossible to make it a day trip since the destination was overseas. Therefore, I decided to inform Eric about the details of my work. "Eric, I'm sorry it's sudden, but I have to go on a business trip overseas this weekend." "A business trip? It's weird for a freelancer like you to say that. Are you just trying to skip housework?" "It's not like that. It's really for work. A freelancer like you going on an overseas business trip? Don't tell such ridiculous lies." "It's not a lie. I received a direct request from the publisher. Just be quiet and listen to your husband. Don't argue with me." Eric kept blaming me as if I was being selfish. Overwhelmed by the absurdity, I looked firmly at Eric. He showered me with unbelievable words. "Do you even understand your position? You call yourself a report writer, but you're almost like an unemployed. I'm continuing this marriage with such a woman, you know? Continuing the marriage. You're talking as if you're doing me a favor? Yes, haha. You can't live without me. If you're dissatisfied, let's get divorced." Eric pulled a divorce paper from his suit pocket and placed it in front of me. In that moment, my temples throbbed with unprecedented anger. I couldn't tolerate it any longer. I had no intention of continuing this marriage after being treated so unfairly. I decided to turn the tables and use him. Eric had a habit of using divorce papers as a threat whenever he was displeased. Until now, I had always apologized to avoid divorce, but that was no longer necessary. I filled out the divorce papers and successfully submitted them to the city hall while he was away. With that, our marital relationship was over. At the same time, I proceeded to cancel the contract for our apartment at the end of the month. Additionally, I decided to go ahead with my scheduled overseas business trip starting from that day. Of course, I didn't tell Eric anything, leaving messages and call notifications disabled. After completing all the procedures, I returned home after 2 weeks. It was already past 8 p.m. and the house was lit up. Although I wanted to avoid seeing him, I couldn't just stay away. With a sigh in my heart, I opened the front door. Hearing the noise, Eric quickly approached from the living room. When I looked up, there he was, standing with his arms crossed. Before I could speak, he began yelling loudly, "You? How dare you come back so casually? Where have you been all this time without any contact? Where have I been? I told you, didn't I? I went on a business trip abroad." Ha, that again. How can I believe that you, who only occasionally goes out and works from home, are on a business trip? That's because it's a direct assignment from the publishing company. I've received proper compensation this time, too. Compensation? Don't make me laugh. Maybe $10. Haha, it's foolish to neglect housework and spend on travel just to earn a measly $10. Eric continued to insult me with a loud, vulgar laugh. However, he hadn't realized yet that we were no longer in a marital relationship. Unaware, he confidently behaved as he pleased. No matter what he said, it no longer affected me. To him, I calmly said, "Do you enjoy looking down on others? Huh? What are you talking about, all of a sudden? It's the fault of the person being looked down upon, isn't it? I haven't done anything to be looked down upon by you. My income is more than 5 times yours." 5 times my income? That's impossible. If that's true, you're earning nearly $10,000 a month. Yes, that's true. What? Faced with this unexpected truth, Eric's face contorted. He was reluctant to admit that I earned more than him. Blushing, he said, "Don't joke with me. You're just a liar. You're just a wife who doesn't even do housework properly. I want a divorce." Breathing heavily, Eric presented a new divorce paper to me. To him, I smiled and revealed the truth. "Oh, you brought a new one?" "Yes, that's right." "Sign it quickly. Don't worry. I've already submitted it to the city hall 2 weeks ago." "What? What are you talking about? Why are you still in this house if we're no longer married?" Confused by my statement, Eric began to speak hesitantly. Swallowing several times, he finally spoke. "What do you mean? You submitted the divorce papers? Why would we not be married? Why?" "Because you presented me with the divorce papers, didn't you?" "Yes, but I didn't really want to divorce you. I didn't know that. I just took the divorce papers and submitted them because I didn't mind parting ways." "What? Why?" "I didn't want a divorce. I just wanted to use the divorce papers to make you understand your place as a wife." Eric's eyes were bloodshot as he gripped my shoulders. It was clear he intended to threaten me with divorce and make me comply with his wishes. Eric didn't really intend to go through with our divorce. Understanding this, I still chose to divorce him. I can't be happy with this person. I finally realized that. Years of frustration led me to express my feelings. "What are you saying? That's ridiculous. Do you understand how I felt during this past year of marriage? I expected you to be my biggest support, yet you mocked my dreams and shattered my heart. Do you understand how much you've hurt me? There's no reason I should listen to a man like you." "Wait, Anna. You mean everything to me. You have no right to call my name so casually. It's unpleasant and annoying. Didn't I tell you? We're already divorced. We're complete strangers now. Divorce. What am I supposed to do now? Please let me stay here. This apartment is in my name. Now that we're divorced, you're trespassing. I never want to see your face again. Leave this place immediately and never show yourself to me again." I threw Eric's belongings outside one by one. Initially, he resisted, but gradually his reactions dulled and he ended up dejected and spiritless. Later, Eric called his parents and moved his belongings to their house. However, due to the difficult situation, he couldn't stay at his parents' house, and they clearly told him they couldn't help. As a result, he had to live on his limited income, moving to a cheap apartment far from his workplace. Of course, he couldn't spend money as freely as before and is barely managing to make ends meet. His savings have run out, and he now lives a life dedicated to saving. On the other hand, I rented a different apartment and started living alone. The move went smoothly, and in my new home office, I've been spending my days comfortably. My articles are now featured in major online media, giving me great joy. The blog I started on a recommendation continues to gain more access, and my income keeps growing. I plan to keep doing interviews wherever I like and writing great articles. I want to continue my current work in my own way, without overextending myself. I'm so embarrassed to have such a lowly, useless person as a mother-in-law. I'm going to cut ties with you. I'm fine with it, but are you really okay with that? My daughter-in-law looks surprised when she found out who I really am. But there's no turning back now. My name is Agnes Cohen, and I've just turned 60. Born to an American mother and a Singaporean father, I am half Singaporean. I was born in Singapore and lived there until I was 17. My father ran a business in Singapore and was usually busy, so our family time was limited to long vacations. Now, my brother runs that company. When I was 17, I moved back to the US with my mother. My father and brother stayed in Singapore, not because my parents had a bad relationship. Perhaps they wanted me to experience different things. So, leaving my father and brother in Singapore, my mother and I moved back to the US and lived at her family home. When I graduated high school, my mother asked me about my future. She said, "I'm going back to Singapore, but you should decide what you want to do, Agnes." I wanted to learn more about the US, my mother's birthplace, so I chose to stay and live at her family home in the US. My mother returned to Singapore, resumed living with my father, and my brother married someone he met in Singapore after graduating from university there. I went to a community college in the US, prioritizing proximity to home. Having lived in Singapore for 17 years, I wasn't very familiar with American colleges, but I didn't fuss over it as I was used to studying independently. Raised overseas and with a mother passionate about education, I could fluently speak 4 languages before even entering college. After graduating, I worked at the US branch of my father's company and am now the deputy representative. Though I'm the deputy representative, it's more of a title at my age. I leave the operation to the younger staff, focusing on their global and professional growth. At 28, I married my current husband, whom I met on a trip. We have 2 children and have lived happily. This spring, my eldest son Justin married Christina, whom he met through work. Justin is calm and kind but sometimes indecisive. He accepted a marriage proposal from Christina. Christina, a graduate of Harvard University, was confident and assertive from our first meeting. I graduated from Harvard University, so I'll continue working hard even after marriage and childbirth. When we have children, I'll have Justin take paternity leave. My husband and I were surprised by her sudden statement at our first meeting. We hope you'll support each other after marriage. We'll help as much as we can. Yes. By the way, may I ask about your educational background? Huh? My husband and I were surprised and looked at each other. Well, my husband graduated from Yale University and I am from M Community College. What? M Community College. Christina exaggerated her surprise in a sarcastic way. Your father's Yale University is top tier among private institutions. But your mother graduated from M Community College, I see. I still can't forget the look on her face, as if it was the end of the world. In fact, everyone in our family has graduated from either Harvard University, Princeton University, or a top private university. I was overwhelmed by her emphasized statement and replied, "Oh, that's very impressive." Afterwards, my son and daughter-in-law moved next door. We're both working and busy, so we might ask for your help sometimes. Of course, that's fine. However, in reality, she tried to push most of the housework onto me. Probably, this was the reason for moving close by. Could you bring in and fold the laundry? I'll be home late today, so please prepare dinner. I started receiving emails like these frequently. At first, she would call politely saying, "I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm busy today and need your help," so I happily agreed. Gradually, the calls turned into emails, and eventually, these emails became more commanding. From twice or thrice a week, it became almost every day. Well, what to do? I can't just keep silent about this. Even though I thought this way, it slowly became the norm. One day, I received a call from a subordinate on my mobile phone, urgently requesting my presence at the office. There was a problem with an ongoing building construction project. Rushing over, I found a serious issue had arisen. A subcontractor providing materials suddenly became unreachable. The construction couldn't proceed without the necessary materials, and we had no contact with them. At first, they made excuses about delivery delays, but eventually they didn't even respond to calls. Moreover, these materials were not available domestically and had to be imported from abroad. This situation anticipated significant losses in both schedule and cost. Despite everyone's busy schedules, the project team was urgently convened and the annual schedule and materials list were distributed. Seeing this, the team leader and I identified common materials which were already available and allocated construction priorities. We worked out a plan to keep the project on track, coordinating with our head office in Singapore. However, if the replacement materials didn't arrive as planned, subsequent projects might be delayed, leaving us in a precarious situation. Ideally, this task should be handled by the subcontractor, but with no communication, we had no choice. We couldn't inconvenience our clients, so our company took care of everything. After temporarily settling things down, I went home. Having worked hard at the office for the first time in a while, I was exhausted and laid down on my bed. Still, we needed to investigate this subcontractor. The next day, I received another email from my daughter-in-law. "I'm busy with work, so please take care of the laundry, cleaning, and dinner preparation." The fatigue from yesterday made me feel even more resentful than usual. I thought it wasn't right to continue like this, and I said this to my daughter-in-law while we were having dinner. "Christina, could you please stop asking me to do household chores and prepare dinner every day?" "What? Why?" Christina looked surprised. "Why? Because I have my own family matters to attend to. You and your husband should be helping each other out, but you have more free time, right? I'm busy every day. You don't know how much work a Harvard University graduate like me is asked to do." Saying that sounds odd. Not everyone who graduates from Harvard University neglects household chores, right? It's not just about spending time on work. It's about being efficient. Really? My words seemed to upset her, and she glared at me with disdain. I don't want to be told that by someone from M Community College. It's unthinkable for someone from Mem Community College to comment on Harvard University graduates. Christine often makes such remarks. Ever since she found out I graduated from Mem Community College, her attitude changed dramatically. Of course, I understand that Harvard University is the top university in the US. It requires tremendous effort to get into Harvard University, and it's wonderful to study hard and achieve results. However, I believe educational background and actual job performance are different matters. And most importantly, it's about one's character. But Christina evaluates people based on whether they're from Harvard University or not. Harvard University is indeed great, but there's no need to look down on M Community College graduates like that. There are many people from M Community College, and don't you think such language is too harsh? I simply asked her what I was wondering. Regardless of educational background, there are many talented people, and I've seen people from high school and vocational school backgrounds steadily increase their salaries at my father's company. What are you talking about? Educational background is very important. People without it often have limited opportunities at work. There isn't a single person from Mem Community College at my company. not even among my relatives. Christina didn't seem to listen to what I said. It's important for those below to support those who are more capable. If you do the housework, it will increase my work efficiency, and I can be more effective. Do you say things like that at your company too? You might want to change that attitude. You'll lose trust from others. Haha, how amusing. Me, a Harvard University graduate, getting advice from an community college grad. Just as I was about to stand up, Christina's phone rang. Hello, it's me. Oh, that issue. Don't agree to it. No way, that's obvious. Think about how much criticism I would receive if it got out. That issue is my responsibility. Just wait. Christina said and hung up the phone. From your company? Seems like there's a problem. Are you okay? I asked out of concern, guessing she was involved in some trouble from the conversation. Even an old lady like me has years of experience. If there's a problem, feel free to discuss it with me. I might be able to help. Discuss it with you. This has nothing to do with you. And Community College's knowledge won't be of any help. I was surprised at how insultingly she responded to my offer of help and grew even more upset, deciding to remain silent. Then, Agnes, I must excuse myself. I have sudden work to attend to at the office. Oh, and please prepare tomorrow's meal as well. What? Wait a minute. Without even saying goodbye after the meal, Christina hurriedly grabbed her things and left. What do you think about her attitude? I can't take it anymore. Should I tell her about the kind of work I've been handling until now? I spoke to my silent husband, letting out my anger, and he replied in a calm tone. Certainly, Christina's recent behavior has been excessive, but it's best to avoid arguing in the same manner. There's no need to specifically mention your background. Maybe it's time to talk with Justin. Maybe you're right. Sighing, I went to clear Christina's dishes and accidentally kicked something at my feet. It was her document case. Clear files scattered out, and some documents spread across the floor. Oh, she must have forgotten this in a hurry. As I picked them up, one of the papers caught my eye. It read, "A shopping mall construction plan." I felt like I had been struck by lightning. I immediately made copies of the document with my home printer and took photos with my smartphone, just in case. Then, I put the papers back in the clear file, trying to stay calm despite my anger reaching its peak. After that, I secretly contacted Justin to come to my house alone. The next morning, I received a call from Christina. "Do you have a case with my work documents over there?" She asked arrogantly, without even a greeting. "Oh, you did leave something here. They're important documents, so don't touch them, okay? Oh, and please prepare dinner tonight, as well as clean and do the laundry at our house. I'll pick up the documents then." She gave her usual orders as if it was natural and hung up. She must think anyone with a lower educational background than hers is just a housekeeper. Again, I realized that education and character are unrelated. That night, Christina came over, grabbed the case with the documents, and suddenly started yelling at me loudly. "Why haven't you done anything? I asked you to clean and do the laundry, didn't I? You didn't do it yourself, did you? I asked you, didn't I? Have you forgotten? That was a request. It didn't seem like one to me. Stop making excuses. Explain why you haven't done it. You're the one who needs to explain. Why should I have to do everything for your house every day? Because I told you I'm busy with work. Everyone manages to balance work and home life by being inventive and doing things themselves. Even when we were young and very busy with work, my husband and I supported each other and got through it. You just did tasks like serving coffee or copying documents, right? Because you're from Community College. The work I'm handling as a Harvard University graduate is completely different. Judging from your behavior, you don't seem capable of handling work. Not intending to just comply today, I decided to honestly express my thoughts. Christina's face twisted even more with anger. I can't stand it anymore. How dare someone with such low education say such things? And on top of that, not doing any housework? You're useless. How can you say that? Having a lowly, useless person like you as a mother-in-law is embarrassing. I'm cutting ties with you. Cutting ties? Yes, I'm completely cutting ties with you. That's fine. In fact, I'm relieved. What? Christina looked momentarily surprised by my response. It must have been unexpected for her. I'm fine with it, but are you really okay with that? I smiled confidently. What are you talking about? I'm the one who will be freed by cutting ties with you. Being abandoned by a Harvard University graduate daughter-in-law is rather pitiful for you. Saying that, I showed her a piece of paper. What's this paper? What is this? Christina's voice grew quieter. In my hand was a paper titled, A Shopping Mall Construction Plan. What? How do you have this? When your document case fell yesterday, I picked it up. I happened to see the contents. Don't look at it without permission. You can't understand how important these documents are. They must be quite important. Important to my company, too. What? Do you know how much trouble your company has caused us? How much everyone is struggling? Once the situation stabilizes, I'll make sure it's thoroughly investigated. What are you talking about? Still not comprehending the situation? Christina looked at me with fearful eyes. I decided to explain slowly. This document, it's a contract for a joint construction project, right? Between your company, mine, and the manufacturer. Look at the top, it says Moana Group American Branch. I'm the deputy representative there. I smiled brightly. What? Christina, sweating, attempted to refute. That's impossible. You, an M Community College graduate, a deputy representative of such a big corporation. The headquarters are in Singapore. Of course, I know that. My brother is the president of the Singapore headquarters. What? You judge people solely on their educational background, never interested in what comes after the university name. I spent my time in Singapore until I was 17. I can speak not only English but also Chinese and French. What? I chose M Community College because it was close to my grandmother's house where I lived. I was new to the USA and unfamiliar with American universities. I wasn't particularly concerned about the university name. So, I don't want to boast about myself like you do. Now, let's get back to the main topic. Now Christina's face was ashen. The delays in material delivery, blaming the transport company, and then no contact at all. That was your company, right? And you were the team leader. No, that's not it. The order mistake was made by my subordinate. I didn't know. You just admitted to an ordering mistake. I didn't mention anything like that. Oh no. When I heard your company suddenly stopped communicating, I suspected an ordering mistake and first focused on resolving the situation. I planned to check the details once the communication was restored. No, but now you've just admitted to an ordering mistake. And from the earlier phone call, it seems you, as the responsible party, tried to silence and hide it. Christina's voice became so weak it almost disappeared. Despite making a mistake, you didn't apologize, tried to hide it, and didn't consider solutions or alternatives, pushing the problem onto us. Even being a Harvard University graduate, it seems you're incapable of handling your job. Don't joke around. I'm from Harvard University, so I have superior knowledge and skills. The name of Harvard University alone seemed to be maintaining her self-esteem and confidence. At least I've never thought of you as intelligent. I said it clearly, and she collapsed to her knees. I'm the deputy representative of this company, fully responsible for the U.S. branch of this project. We will cease all future dealings with your company and claim damages related to this project. Wait, my superiors don't know yet. I'm your daughter-in-law, right? Can't we resolve this issue internally, please? Christina's attitude changed completely. She was practically begging me then. But we just cut ties, didn't we? I'll take it back. Think about Justin. Isn't it sad for him? No need to worry about that. What? Justin and my husband appeared from the next room. They had been listening from the beginning. Why are you here? I heard everything yesterday. I knew you boasted about your education, but I never thought you looked down on mom just because she's an community college graduate. Well, I felt bad for working late every day, but I never imagined you were making mom do the cleaning and laundry every day. You said we were eating at my parents' house because you got along well with mom. I can't live with someone who despises my parents so much. Wait, just a minute. I have something I'd like to say as well. My husband, who had been silent until now, spoke up for the first time. Despite your demeaning remarks about my wife being an community college graduate, I stayed silent because our son chose you. I thought I'd wait and see, but your attitude never changed, and you've been deceiving him. And trying to cover up your failures at work with lies and hiding information. You might be academically smart as a Harvard University graduate, but there's a lot missing in you as a person. His calm yet convincing speech left Christina unable to retort. My wife, whom you scorned, is far smarter than me, a Yale University graduate. She also has international experience. Yet, she never becomes arrogant or looks down on others. It's because of her qualities that I cherish and respect her. Honey, though I felt happy with my husband's words, this wasn't the time to revel in them. I looked at Christina. Judging people solely by their educational background is the problem. Of course, there are wonderful people who have both education and humanity. Ultimately, a person's worth is determined by their ability to empathize with others and build trust, both in work and at home. Whether my words reached her or not, I couldn't tell. She just stared at the floor. About a month has passed since then. Christina's company seems to be on the brink of bankruptcy. Paying damages to our company has caused their reputation in the industry to plummet. New projects have ceased to come in, and their performance has rapidly deteriorated. Naturally, part of the responsibility lies with Christina, the project leader who didn't tell the truth to clients and colleagues and tried to hide the mistake. Given her character, she probably lacked popularity among her peers. During the HR investigation, her subordinates testified about the pressure from Christina. It appears that she, having caused significant damage, might be sued by the company. On the other hand, my company overcame the crisis by responding diligently, building further trust with clients and manufacturers, and receiving more job requests. Afterwards, my son Justin and his wife Christina got divorced. When Justin tried to talk things out, Christina refused to acknowledge her mistakes or apologize and agreed to the divorce. I'm glad I don't have to deal with people like you anymore. Her parting words only made her appear more pitiful. It seems that being a Harvard University graduate was her only source of superiority. But how foolish it was that this became the reason she lost her job and family. Justin, who had been pressured into marrying her, said, "I'm so sorry for causing trouble for you, Mom, because of my weakness. You don't need to apologize, dear. You're still young and you'll meet someone wonderful in the future. I truly wish for Justin's happiness." And sometimes, I fondly recall the words my husband spoke to Christina on my behalf that day. With Christina gone, the routine of preparing meals just for my husband and me has returned, and my heart feels lighter. Maybe I'll make my husband's favorite steak and mashed potatoes today. Thinking of such happy things, I walk under the clear blue sky.